Don't let me forget, please, that the reason I've got 2 copies, apart from means I can read it out, and I could just say, would you please read those? Yeah. But I don't know whether you have read it, yeah? And I don't know whether there were any questions that came up while you were reading it. And occasionally there are bits on here that I think are helpful if we add a bit of explanation to it. Okay. But the bottom line is, at the end of today, and this is the first bit, get the grunty bit out of the way, is I need a signed copy by you to hand back in, hence 2 copies of it. Right, it's a bit dark in here. Yeah, it's a bit bright around here. Bring a chair around.
Sorry about that.
And I'll tell you a story.
Yeah.
This might seem a bit silly going through each one of these, and I know obviously that you're an experienced person with shooting. You've been shooting for how long? Since you were young?
About 5-6 years now.
5-6 years?
Yeah, 5-6 years.
And what sort of thing have you been doing with shooting?
At the beginning I was shooting in a club in Burgess.
Okay.
And Burgess shooting club.
Right.
And it's mainly club, and they were very disciplined, like shooting prone, standing.
Was that small bore rifle? Or
no, just
or air rifles?
Air rifles.
Oh, well,
air
rifles,
rifles, okay. Up to 25 meters.
Yep.
And they were doing a lot of pistol as well, but it was very safe, very safety oriented, like every club, but it was very disciplined. There was a door, there was light, so when people was in range, you had to wait. And then, you know, everyone had 10 shots come out, and then the other group goes in, so it was very disciplined.
Yeah.
I was doing that for a while, and then I wanted to go and shoot outside a bit.
Right.
So then I joined pistol and rifle portion.
Yeah.
They have an outdoor range.
I know them.
Yeah, but I never could get to the HFT because I work weekend because of my wife's situation and all that, so I can't do weekend. And I had a couple of rabbit permission about 4 years ago, which was amazing.
Right.
And I was always in BASC, and then there was this where I shoot now, big estate.
Right.
They were looking, because they do forestry stuff.
Right.
Trees, so they were looking for people to control squirrels, so they went through BASC.
Yeah.
And then my name came up because I live closer to the area,
right.
I think.
Yeah.
Then I got the chance, and we've been there, me and another. There was 6 people come and go.
Right.
But I've been there for about 3 years now, regularly shooting squirrels. That's my main activity in Caden.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I mean, you know, people get into this side of the sport for a whole different host of reasons. You know, I think it's good. I would say that, wouldn't I? But I've done all sorts of shooting over the years. Started off when I was a kiddie with an air rifle, and then at school with Tutors, and then bigger stuff. Yeah, we used to shoot full bore. I used to shoot full bore at Bisley and other ranges. I've shot shotgun, but mostly for fun, not game shooting. Plays, and I used to shoot small bore rifle a lot. I mean, I'd be shooting 3-4 days a week, sometimes more. 3 positional, prone, kneeling, and standing. Out to 100 yards, occasionally 200, which is really challenging with a 2.2. It's more like shooting this at 50 yards. Or this is a little bit like shooting, what we do is a bit more like shooting full bore, 7.62, 308 at 1,000 yards. In terms of, I mean, but a big difference is that they always know exactly how far the target is. And they've got flags down the range to tell them what the wind's doing.
You've got people watching.
Well, you actually fire your shot and it's marked on the target and you can see where it fell. So you've got sighters you do beforehand. Here we've got to guess the range, judge the wind, and you've only got one shot to get it right. You can't have another shot.
Yeah, it's very challenging.
And that is what I think makes it fun. And frustrating as well, sometimes, but fun. Just trying to improve your skill. And if you do and continue to do pest control, I think you'll learn stuff that will help that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I used to do it as well. Never been invited onto grounds to shoot squirrels, but rabbits quite a lot. Yeah, especially where they were a major pest, creating holes in paddocks
Everywhere.
where horses get upset with broken legs and things. And also the amount that they undermine hedgerows as well.
Yeah, that's a big problem. People don't see that.
Yeah.
They just see a
Little nice fluffy bunny.
Yeah.
But they also taste good as well.
Oh, obviously, definitely.
And I think, you know, I used to shoot more than I could ever eat, although I do like them. But I used to be able to sell them to a local butcher.
Yeah, as well. I've done that as well, but I don't have any the permission at the moment.
Sure. Yeah.
Squirrel it is.
Squirrel apparently tastes good.
Yeah, I've eaten it
You
a
have,
few
yeah,
times.
it's
Yeah, it's
tasty.
very tasty.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So, into this thing. Okay, number one we did on the way down here. Yeah, always ensure the red flag is flying before shooting commences and lowered when you know you're last to leave. Yeah, it's not an absolute guarantee that someone coming down here will raise it. Yeah, so if you're coming down here, even if there isn't another car in the car park, we have some members who live close enough to here to walk, and one or two of those will come down purely to do some gardening. Yeah. So even though there's no car out there and the red flag is down, yeah, put it up as you come in, but just have a little walk around, and check that there's nobody down before you start shooting. Okay, signing in, it mentions in the next bullet point, there used to be in the table behind this block of wood here, a little book to sign in. During COVID, we've switched to doing it via Facebook. Yeah. At one time, during the time of COVID, where we had to limit the number of people coming down, getting your name on the Facebook thing was critical because people could see how many were coming down. But we're using it now effectively in place of a book. Yeah. COVID's still around. I don't know how you feel about it personally.
Yeah, it's still around. I still have to go to work. You know?
Yeah, sure.
Life goes on, but
it's not something that any of us want to catch.
No.
So actually, not having a book that 6 other people have picked the pen up from, is Facebook works. Yeah,
it does.
If we reintroduce a bit of paper to sign in, we'll of course let you know. Yeah. So ensure you paid your membership. Not yet. These sessions are free. Yeah. But if you decide to join, you can either pay in cash, and I'll show you, it mentions here a post box. Yeah, really important that if you are paying cash using an envelope, that it's very clear who it's from and what it's for. Charles, who's the chairman and the one who usually collects in anything that's been left, gets really annoyed if he's got an envelope with a £5 in it and he's no idea who it's from. Okay. But you can pay by bank transfer, and the details are on the Oaks form, as you can see there. Driving, through the farmyard, you know, there would be this in place anyway, but slowly means walking pace, 5 mile an hour. To be honest, I think unless you've got a huge 4x4 with massive ground clearance, you're not going to want to drive up there at more than walking pace anyway. But bear it in mind. And again, the range is open. One of the attractions, I think, for me of this club, we're here on a Thursday morning, where a lot of clubs are only open weekends, maybe one day during the week. But here it's 365 days a year. You can be here on your own once you've completed this and joined the club. But the hours, not before 7 in the morning, and not after dark. So it mentions 7 till 9, where 9 might be doable in the summer. But it potentially could mean that you could come down in an evening even after work, at the weekend. It's possible.
Quickly.
Even if it was only a couple of hours. So the membership runs from the beginning of October. In terms of the membership, if you join us now, there will be an adjusted fee. Which I'll get you to have a chat with Charles about that. Okay, so guests, they are allowed. They're only allowed to be brought down by a fully signed up paid member. And you become responsible for their safety and how they, you've had to explain how you do things you do and don't do, which we'll cover here again. Yeah, but you take responsibility for it. Okay, and the charge for a non-member is £5 a day. Yeah. And please notify guests, so you'd be doing that anyway on the website, on the Facebook page. Jason, I'm going to come down tomorrow morning, afternoon, whatever, and be bringing with me X and X, whoever wants to come. Okay, this bit again is slightly different at the moment. It says notification of competitions and working parties will be done via email. Right now we're pretty much doing that exclusively on the Facebook page. So if I know you're a member of it, but click the notify button, it should ping up automatically. I think you spotted that I had put
your
thing for today. Okay. Tidy up. Having just found that black bag over there, I don't know what it's doing there. It might have blown off the motorway, but please tidy up. I mean, this is about good housekeeping, common sense, something you probably do at home. Trying to persuade members in the pavilion in the clubhouse to wash up their mugs after them. Right, I will show you in the clubhouse, which temporarily I've locked up because there's no one else around. It doesn't have mains water, but some people think that the tap doesn't work. It's actually powered by an electric pump, and you have to press a button. A bit like being in a caravan. Okay. So don't leave paper targets lying around. And to be honest, because not everybody has the same common sense that you or I have, if you see a bit of rubbish, tidy it up, put it away. Even if the clubhouse is open, put it in the bin in there. Contribute to keeping the place talk. Okay, so general safety stuff. There are trips and slip hazards. We've just put these steps in here from this bit up to the upper layer because it was getting to the point where if it was anything other than bone dry, and even if it was bone dry, it could still be slippy because of the dust. But there are other trip hazards, probably less so at this club on the course itself from the firing line, and that includes the fields, than you'd find at some other clubs. But there will be times when you're going out there, whether that's here, this area, or in the wood, and there are lots of not easy to see trip hazards. Whether that's something above ground, like a log, or a bit of a branch, or the brambles. They can grow like really thick and will take your leg away if you put your boot underneath them. But there are also holes in them, especially up in the wood. We've definitely got some badgers around, and there are badger holes, and it's not like rabbit holes, relatively, and may not be easily seen. So take care when you're moving around to make certain you don't put yourself or anyone else at risk. So if you're carrying a rifle over one shoulder and a machete in the other to go and hack that bush up, think twice about that. We have trees, so occasionally you can see some already. We put targets up in trees, which, unless we've got an exceptionally tall member, means using a ladder. Common ladder safety stuff. They will not usually be fixed at the top because we do use different trees, different heights. So make certain that you've got a second person standing at the bottom, ideally even got their foot on the bottom rung. If you're not comfortable doing it, or you're not confident climbing a ladder, don't be pushed into doing it. Get someone who is. But if you are, try to ensure that there's someone who's around to help with supporting it. And the other thing it says here is when you're working from a ladder, okay, you've got it up against the tree there, but you want the target on that branch there. Don't lean out. And what this says is don't lean. How far is safe? Don't lean beyond the point where your belt buckle would be outside the left or right frame of the ladder. If you need two hands, again, rethink. Can I reposition it so that I'm not going to have to put myself at risk, or the person underneath there who I'm going to fall on? Engage do not reach. So so your bolt buck will be outside. Okay, air rifles and pistols, legal limits, you know about those. Yeah, so it's 12 foot-pound, and it is 12 foot-pound itself is okay. It mustn't be over that. Same thing with pistols, except the limit is 6 foot-pound. Yeah. Always treat your gun as loaded at all times. Don't use a scope as a carry hand. Slightly ironically, one of the people I know who always breaks that rule was until very recently the Chief Marshal in the national organisation, who every time he gave us the rule safety briefing before the shoot would include that bit, and then the next thing you see him doing is taking his rifle out of his bag by lifting it up with the scope. Yeah? Don't do it. Do carry your gun in a case. Yeah. A lot of us would keep a gun in a case until we're at the place where we're going to take a shot. If you don't have it in a case and you carry it over your shoulder, if it's got a sling, carry it muzzle down. I don't know whether you've seen people who regularly, you see it particularly if you're a BASC member, the magazines will show someone out in the countryside shooting deer, barrel up, which is okay up to a point. The point being the tip of the barrel, in that so often you'll find that the sling isn't quite the right length and it will slip. So the barrel can be facing 45 degrees.
Yeah, shooting backwards.
The person behind you, if they're tall, is probably looking down the end of it, barrel down. Yeah? Unloaded, of course, anyway, if it's over your shoulder. Guns may only be loaded when you're at the firing line and only when the gun is pointing down the range. Yeah. Never rest the muzzle on your foot. Again, you're a BASC member. Have you ever done shotgun shooting as well? No. But if you go to a shotgun shoot, even a clay shoot, it is quite normal to see shotgun guys, or ladies, maybe with the barrel broken, so it's open, but put the barrel on their foot. Yeah, don't do that. We have examples of people who've got some extremely painful damage done to a toe, because the gun was loaded. Okay, yes, you've got to try and keep it out of the mud, but don't make your way of doing that putting it on your boot. Just hold it correctly, and it shouldn't, of course, be loaded anyway. But you're always treating it, so don't put it on your foot. Okay, there's the advice there now. Whenever you get to the club, particularly if it's quiet, have a quick walk round to see who else is there. They might be out repairing targets or painting, when you think you're alone and you can be shooting towards them. Where we looked at the pistol and bench rest area, we do allow BB guns, but the only type of BB ammunition that is allowed is something called Dust Devils. They're relatively new, but steel BBs, or the plastic ones, are very, very well known when they're being fired at a metal target for coming straight back. The Dust Devils will instantly fragment as soon as they hit something. So they are the only type that can be used. Okay, so whether you're shooting on the plank, these areas, or out on the HFT course, we're operating a buddy marshal system. Obviously, if there's more than just you down here, otherwise you're responsible for you. But buddy marshalling, and the same thing applies even at national level competitions. You're shooting with a group of 1 or 2 other people. If you see someone doing something that you think is unsafe, even if you just joined the club next week, don't let that stop you saying to them, I don't think that's really safe. They should not give you grief for saying that. If they believed it was safe, they might say, oh, well, actually, I was stupid. And you might. Anyway, don't let it stop you saying something. It doesn't matter. If you get grief from them, let one of us know, because that's not the way to keep safe. And the same thing goes for you. If someone sees you, even if they missaw, and they say, oh, Jason, I don't think that was safe, take it, okay, that's fine, thanks, I'll be more certain to be taking care of it next time. Okay, take it as a positive. This site, you've mentioned squirrels, there's no shooting of any live quarry allowed on any parts of our shooting on the ground here. The farmer does employ other pest controllers. Yeah, so that's for them to do, not for us. Yeah. Avoid shouldering the rifle and looking through the scope when you're away from the firing line or the blinking area. And the place where you're most likely to see that happen is in the car park. So, Jason, new member, no one's seen a 20 caliber HW before. Maybe you've got a scope that others go, oh, let's have a look at that. It's a new gun someone just brought down and they want to show somebody. And the first, oh, that's that scope I've been thinking. Let's have a look. Now, here, more than well through and shoulder any rifle, yeah, as long as there's a firing line and it's recognised firing line. Right. Don't pick up somebody else's gun. Yeah, it says rifle, it says salute just as well, unless you've got their permission to do it. Yeah. The exception to that is if we're in the car park. Yeah, I've got my head stuck in the cover waiting for the kettle to boil, and you notice that my gun in its bag is on the ground, and Charles is about to reverse over it in his Range Rover. I would be quite happy if you would quickly move it. Yeah.
Charles is going to die anyway.
Well, no. It would be my fault for leaving it somewhere where it wasn't safe. Yeah. In a Range Rover, you can't see anything. I think his Mercedes is amazing because that you've got a 360-degree camera view all round it.
Yeah.
The whole car.
Those cars are amazing.
Unbelievable. Yeah. Okay, so don't do it if it's someone else's and there isn't something other than it being a hazard or likely to be damaged. Yeah. People here are very, very happy generally for you to have a look at their gun. Yeah, but make certain you've got the permission for it. This one, 2 words, no horseplay, no mucking about. Yeah. There's a lot of banter and mickey-taking goes on, which is fine. Horseplay suggests something a bit more than that, even kind of sort of a pretend fisty fight. No, not the place to do it. It's not safe. Right? So, any shoes are warned twice by a marshal or a club official for a safety violation. If you're warned twice, yeah, you'll be asked to leave. This applies in competitions as well. If you had a junior shooting with you, yeah, who you're responsible for, it may have been them that generated the safety hazard warning, but you'd have to leave with them. Yeah. Okay, and if you continually, I think this has only ever happened once in this club, and it wasn't me, long before I joined, yeah, that there was someone who continually didn't abide by safe practice and listen to advice and guidance, and eventually had to be asked to leave. So, sort of stuff you'll come across on an HFT course. If you've, for any reason, have to move from the firing line, for instance to reposition yourself, after you've decided you're going to take the shot, the gun's pointing over the firing line, you've loaded it, but you suddenly realise you can't see the target properly from that side of the object. It might be a tree, a standing shot where there's a tree, and you thought you could shoot that side, but you've realised you're going to have to shoot the other side. You don't do that. Yeah? You discharge the gun safely into the ground, let your colleagues know who are shooting with you. So guys, I'm going to have to move, so I'm just going to fire my gun off into the ground. Yeah. And then reposition yourself before you reload it. Yeah.
So does that count as a lost point or?
No, not as long as you've told people.
Okay.
Yeah. If you hadn't told them and they're looking sort of might be not concentrating on what you're doing, and you've fired a shot, when you're on an HFT course and you've approached the peg to take a shot, if the gun fires, in other words, if air is released, it's taken as your shot. So if the pellet hasn't hit the target, yeah, it will be a donut. Yeah, thing is amusingly known as a donut. It's sort of like a donut shot. Yeah. Okay, so same thing applies if you're getting down to a prone shot or up or any other position, and you can't do so safely keeping the muzzle pointing down range. Yeah, ask for a bit of help. No one's going to have an issue with that. Would you mind just taking me gun? Because I'm cramping, I've got to. Yeah, don't struggle and compromise safety. Other times you can leave the gun on the ground, safely pointing down range, while you get up, then pick it up. Yeah. Okay, multi-shot rifles. Is yours single or multi?
I've got a single shot.
Single shot.
Magazine.
Right, a single shot adapter.
No,
Cool.
yeah, I think it's an adapter.
Right.
A 3D printed one.
Oh right,
Yeah.
right. I know
Copy
HW for their because I think
They do have single loaded magazine.
yes.
Yeah, I think,
They used to do a little
£60.
flip out one.
Yeah, they still do, but I don't think I can get one yet for the 20.
Right.
Or its original price. I
Okay.
don't want to spend that much, yeah.
Right.
I'm just using
Might be worth having a word with one of our guys who is an absolute wizard at 3D printing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I bought one on eBay.
Right.
I'm using it, it's alright, but I don't think it's what I want. Because you have to put the pellet, you don't have a little circle, you just post it from behind.
Yeah.
You have to kind of drop it in.
Drop
there.
it in, yeah.
Yeah, and then push it in. But sometimes you can drop it backwards.
Back to yes, we all know about that. Yeah. Okay. But certainly, so multi-shot rifles. You've either, if you're using a magazine, it should be removed between lanes. If it's removable, if it's fixed in the rifle somehow, yeah, then you must only load one pellet into it at a time. Yeah, and it should be removed if it's removable, and the gun uncocked between lanes. So fixed magazines must only be loaded with one pellet at a time. The most important thing, and you will hear this every safety briefing everywhere, not you won't, the others. Yeah, we use whistles sometimes in the big competitions. It might be klaxon. Yeah, especially if we've got two different courses shooting at the same time. Maybe one of them uses whistles, one of them uses a klaxon, yeah? But one blast on a whistle or klaxon means stop, yeah? Two blasts means it's all clear and you can continue shooting. So there's going to be an occasion where you're down ready to take a shot, you've just loaded the gun and there's a blast on the whistle, yeah? You must not take your shot at the target once you've heard that whistle, yeah? But you've also got to make it safe. So if you've got a hole,
Yes.
or in a lot of cases, but again you've got to be certain you can read it, the height between the hinge, if you can see it, and the hole, yeah, these headshot ones, usually the old traditional targets, the hole would be here.
In the middle, yes.
And the distance between that and that was always the same. Whether it was a crow or a rat or a pigeon or a squirrel, it was always the same. It's why course setters in the end started covering this up.
The front bit.
Yeah, they covered it up. Some people would even measure, which again is pretty much absolutely universal, the width of that, if you can see it. Yeah. I've got a little handout leaflet on how other things you can use, but what is it? How are you measuring it? Okay, if you're confident that you know the height from there to there, how does your scope help you identify how far away it is?
I think it will help you in between the mil dot.
Yeah, how many mil dots between there and there? Yeah?
Yes.
If you know that looking at that target 40 yards away shows 3 mil dots.
Yeah.
Yeah? If you looked at it and it was actually like 2.5 mil dots,
yes,
is that going to be further away or closer?
Closer.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if it's like 3.25,
they'd be a bit further. Yeah. But you do have to know. And again, in the old days when they were all virtually one manufacturer's designs, they were all the same. Yeah. And I think it was sort of, after the first couple of years of that, where people learn how to track it,
and then
the course setters then start
blocking it, changing it.
I mean, even if it was otherwise visible, it might be up on a stand, in a field. But if you could otherwise see it, put
you
something
could measure
in front of it. There are other things you can do if you know the distance between the tip of his nose and the back of his head on a crow. Yeah. But is it a standard size crow?
Yeah, this is a regular crow.
Whether we must have one in the hut if it is now on course. A thing that got named Crowzilla.
Crowzilla.
Half as high there's that again.
Yeah, it's just quite big, isn't it? Yeah.
Big, yeah. But if it's at 45 yards,
Yeah,
it probably
it
looks the
looks
same
same
size
as
as this
this
does
one, yeah.
at 30 yards.
Yeah.
Yeah. You certainly know when you shoot it, and even the sound a pellet makes when it hits it is
Yeah,
different.
closer, it's harder, further, it's lighter.
It's just
probably.
a bigger boing.
Yeah.
Just makes a different sound. If you knock it over, you certainly know the difference because you
have to put it back.
and when it goes down, it's crash.
Yeah, right. Or you do it slow.
But that's after you've taken the shot, of course. Not before. Yeah.
If you're lucky.
Yeah. Yeah. No, comes with skill. So your number one idol.
Hopefully after 500 years, I'll get there. Somewhere. Sorry about that.
That's right. Something that we did last week was to get you to focus your scope using your side wheel at a range. What did we do it at? Did we do it at 30 yards?
Yes.
And at 30 yards, in theory, if it's still focused correctly, you won't see any movement of the apparent movement of the crosshairs when you move your head.
Yes.
So we call it being sort of parallax free at that range.
Yes.
Yeah. When you're looking down the range now, hello, Trouble.
Friend.
Meet Jason. I've already warned him about you.
Yes, do we know Jason?
New member? Well, a pending new member.
Newbie.
How you doing, buddy? You all right?
Yeah.
My name's Graham Cargy.
Cargan. Jason Perrine.
Nice to meet you, Jason.
Nice to meet you, sir.
Just abide by the rules and I won't pick on you.
No problem.
That's all I ask all our members to do.
Yes.
Okay,
And
just
do the washing up.
do the washing up.
He never does. I never do. I've even bought some flaming dish pan scale things
Can I
down
grab
there.
that off me? I spoke to Rudy.
Right.
He said that's what won the World Championships.
Ooh.
And
Is it for sale?
free to sell.
Yes.
I didn't know what the fuck I was looking at, mate, so I thought I'd just bring it.
Bag in the way there.
Shame. Oh no, I have got one with me. Ooh. Yeah, so parallax free, and that should be a range at which your view of the thing you're looking at is very, very clear. Yeah.
So the rat is 10 or 15?
The rat is 10.
10.
Yeah. The rabbit
15,
in
20,
front of it
25,
is
30. The squirrel is 30.
squirrel is 30. Yes, squirrel's 30. It's a stag behind it that's 35. So as well as being able to see that it's exactly in focus at that point, it's obviously going to be really clear.
Yeah, yes.
You know, you might even be able to see flakes of paint,
Yes.
tiny details. And if there's no movement, you're going to know straight away that because the crosshairs don't move, then you know it's 30 yards. Yeah. At different ranges, if you look at the 45 yard bit at the end,
Yes.
is it as clear?
No,
And this will vary from scope to scope, or is there a little bit blurred?
it is a little bit blurred, yes.
Okay, so if you look at the little deer behind the stag, that's at 40 yards.
Yes.
Is that also super clear, or is it a little bit blurry? And we're talking fine margins here. And something that you might need to do, because your brain wants the thing you're looking at to be sharp, so it may try to refocus your eyes.
Not blurry, it's just
So
like there's a little...
before making certain that you think, just give your eyes a rest. I either look down, sort of down here, or even just close my eyes for a couple of seconds and then reopen them and have another look straight away.
It's less fuzzy.
It's less fuzzy, but there is a little bit.
There's a little bit
Okay,
around the edges,
okay.
kind of thing.
So straight away, you know that
makes
your
a
30
difference,
yarder is going to be crystal clear.
Yes.
If a 35, the big stag, you can
Yes.
probably see his antlers,
Yes.
yeah,
I see
if not the
that.
kill. that's probably going to be sharp.
Yes.
Yeah. So if when you're looking at something, if you've looked down the range and you've thought, oh, I think that's between 30 and 35, and actually when you look again, it's a bit blurry, you know it's going to be further. And the amount of blur, and there are issues with this, the amount of blur can help you identify how much further away it is than the point at which it's super sharp. Same thing coming forward. Which of these targets, if you look, I'd say your squirrel was at 30, then the pheasant, then the fox. At which range does it start to get a little bit blurry?
The fox is okay. The pigeon's starting a bit.
Yeah, so that's 15 yards, it starts to get a bit blurry.
15 yards.
And the rat probably, and certainly the rabbit on the ground here at just 8 yards away.
The rat is definitely blurry.
So, and was the pigeon a little bit blurry?
Yeah, the pigeon was just a little bit.
Okay, but the fox isn't?
No,
Which would be good.
The fox isn't.
Oh, right.
The pigeon is on the edges.
Right.
And the rat is starting to be.
Again, the thing, that transition between being clear and a teeny bit blurry can help you with your range finding. Because if you know, if you looked at the fox and you could see it was clear, okay. But if you looked at the fox and it was a teeny bit blurry, you know it can be closer than 20. If you know, if your head can recognise the amount of blur when you're looking at the pigeon as it stands at the moment, then you know it's going to be around the 15-yard mark, or maybe a teeny bit closer. So this is about using scopes in and out of focused areas to help you recognise and correct your first guess using number one eyeball. For a lot of people, especially the closest ones, a lot of people would guess using their number one eyeball that rabbit was closer than 8 yards. You won't see many targets only 8 yards away, but they do appear. And I remember setting a course once where several people said, that can't be 8 yards, it looks like 6. Rubbish, no, it was measured. So the other things we can use is knowing how far away a target is allowed to be under the rules. Based on the size of the kill. And to some extent the size of the area of plate around it. And that comes into effect more on kneeling standing shots. But so a 15mm target can only be between 13 yards and 25 yards. I'll give you this stuff. I've got a little cheat sheet for this. And when we say 15mm, that isn't only 15. It's anything that's 15mm or above, but below 20mm. Very rare, but someone might produce a target. Maybe they bought it as a 15mm, but they've drilled it out to 19 to make you think it's a 20mm, which can then be down as close as 8 yards. So if you were looking at it and thinking, that's obviously not a 15mm. It looks to me to be a bit closer than 13. Maybe it's 11 or 12 yards. But actually it was a 19mm target that had to be at 13. It's not always easy to judge the size of the kill. Some people are certainly better at it than I am, especially the long range ones. Back in the day, targets were only ever 15mm exactly. Even 20mm were rare. It used to be 15, 25, 35, 45. 40 was common, which look enormous. now.
Yeah.
I think there was one competition we went to the other week where there was an old 45mm target. It looked like a dinner plate out there.
Yeah.
Huge!
Big.
And at long range, at 40 or 45 yards, it still looks quite inviting. It's not challenging. But at 40 yards, you can now have a 25mm target. We're limited in the number.
Yes.
But that, again, for someone, well, for all of us, your range finding needs to be pretty good.
Yeah.
But again, if you knew that it was, if you could see
size.
that it was definitely 25mm, you know it can't be more than 40 yards.
Yes.
Yeah. So we can use target sizes, the kill sizes,
The kill size.
knowing the rules as to how far away they can be, to help us say, oh my god, my guess was that was 30 yards, but I can see it's a 15mm target, so I know it can't be further than 25 yards. Yeah. So the blur thing, yeah? So you've got parallax movement, where there's no movement at
at
your
all.
30 yards, yeah?
The target is clear.
If the the target is clear,
and there's no
this is going to
movement.
tell you, but I'll warn you about things that can go wrong with that. Yeah, but if you've got reasonable lighting and a nice high contrast or reasonably well lit target, the introduction or the view of a blurry target will tell you that it's further away than 30. Yeah, probably further away than 35, or closer, or at 15 yards. So we've gone through blur. Bracketing. This is a biggish subject, but the basic principle you've already spoken to me about. Yeah, if you knew, if you can see the hinge,
Yes.
and you know, because you've had a look at targets in the open, in control, at different ranges, and with your scope and your magnification and your eyes, you can see that at 30 yards, it is 1.5 mil dots across. Yeah. If you can see that it's actually only 1 mil dot across, that means it's going to be closer. If it's looking more like 2 mil dots, you know it's going to be. And you can actually, and there's nothing to stop you actually having a reminder card with you for your scope and eyes. Yeah, as to how far away they are based on things that you know the size of, and how many mil dots or half mil dots there are. The reason why we always hesitate with all of these things, like the parallax movement and the blur, you can be fooled because the lighting conditions change.
Yes.
Yeah. If you're shooting in an open field in bright daylight and good sunshine, and it's a nice freshly painted target, and that's how you originally made your note of where the different distances blur, that can be quite different when you come into an area of woodland with a target through a tunnel, in shadow, because when it's dark, what happens to your eyes? What happens to the iris in your eye when it's dark?
Close.
Opposite.
Opens
They want to let more light in.
Yeah.
And when your iris opens, it reduces your own depth of field.
Yes.
Yeah. So you're more likely to see something that appears to be blurry when in the bright conditions it wasn't. I also find with my current scope that I get similar fibbing going on with the parallax movement. So these are just things that experience and practice will begin to help you learn them.
Yes. You need that.
I know, I double checked with blur and I double checked with the parallax movement. I know it was at 40 yards, but my pellet went out of shop at 12 o'clock. And everybody else around it says, oh, don't be stupid, that was only 30. And I'm thinking, right, that was obviously one of those circumstances where my blur fibbed. And then, again, we've touched it already. We looked at it, and I think you may have made a note last week, the amount of apparent parallax movement you get at different ranges. So that's no movement when you move your head when you're at 30 yards. But it will move, and increasingly so, as you get either side of that.
Further and closer.
Yes.
So I think it goes to the left and further goes to the right. I think we were talking about.
It's the direction. when it's further away than your parallax free distance, the crosshairs appear to move in the opposite direction from your head movement. So if you look at the 40-yard little deer,
Yes. Yeah.
nice and steady, and if you move, bearing in mind you need to make certain your head's in the middle to start with, yeah, and then if you move your head to the right, you should see the crosshairs appear to move to the left. And if you know how far it moves before sort of your vision through the scope disappears, before you can no longer see the mil dots, then that helps you identify the range. Coming forward now, if you look at the fox at just 20 yards, again, you should clearly see movement, apparent movement, but it's going to be in the same direction your head moves. If you're not getting enough apparent movement there, try the pigeon at 15. I mean, the amount of movement becomes progressively greater the closer you are or the further away that you are from your 30-yard zero.
How close I move little and I'm further, it move more. That makes sense.
The amount, well, when you get down to a sort of a 10-yarder or an 8-yarder, again, it will vary depending upon you, your eyes, your scope. Yeah. For most people, the furthest you'll be, if you just think about the physical distance, 45 yards is only 15 yards beyond your zero parallax movement. 10 yards is now 20 yards closer, further away from your parallax free area. 8 yards is now 22 yards, so it's a greater physical distance compared with 30 to 45 or 30 to 40. So usually the amount of parallax apparent movement you'll get will be greater at the very closest ranges. But critically, it's in the opposite direction. So if you looked at a target and you thought that it was 35, you look through your scope, well, it's sharp, but I know that's normal. But when I move my head, if you're looking through it and you moved your head and the crosshairs either stayed central or moved as your head, that means it's actually closer than 30. Maybe it's 25. Because you're probably going to find that your 35, the stag, your squirrel at 30 and the pheasant at 25 are all pretty clear. They're not going to get blurry, but it's the direction of parallax movement and how much that can help you. And there's no way of actually, I can't tell you exactly how much it will be. It is a matter of sitting at a bench like this with targets, and actually making a note of how much you expect to see the crosshairs move for the different ranges. I mean, at the moment with my old Digi Night Eye, at 45 yards I get nearly 3 mil dots of movement. With the new scope I'm just trying out, thing from Sure Shot, it's half that. Yeah, my eyes are the same, but the optics in the scope, so I can't tell you exactly how you're going to see it with this one. I mean, I was amazed that I've got this new scope set up at the same height above the barrel as the old one, but the aim points are very, very different, holdovers and unders. I used to have a full mil dot hold over for 10 yards and 2 mil dots for 8. With the new scope, unless it's only one session with it, I only have to hold about 3/4 of a mil dot or a bit less for 10 yards, and only just over a mil dot, so almost half the amount of holdover. Only half the amount of holdover needed for a 45-yard target. Although it's still zeroed at 35, which is where I was used to.
Yes.
But 45 for me was almost 1 full mil dot, which I think it was for yours, wasn't it?
Right,
Yeah. What it is about the design optically that makes that difference, I don't know, because I haven't measured it, that the gap between the dots in this scope are exactly the same as the other one. Yeah. Because you hear people talk about different reticle types, minute of arc reticles or mil reticles.
Half mil dot.
Yeah, but mil dots is one way of measuring them. Yeah. Milliradians is another. Minutes of arc and milliradians. And you'll hear some people say, "Oh, I could never shoot with one of those mil dot scopes. I've got to have the other type." It's different if you're in the forces and you're trying to measure precisely the height of a person or the distance to a person, who we know is 6 foot tall, and they'll use their milliradians to measure it. And the scope itself has got to be exactly milliradians, which it will only be at one particular magnification setting, unless you've got a first focal point scope. And then you've got to know and check that it is true milliradians.
Tracking properly.
Tracking as well. Yes. So we've got number one eyeball. You know here right now it's easy to see how far a 45 yard is, because you know those planks of wood at the back there are 45 yards away. You can be pretty confident that we've put these posts out at measured 10 yard intervals. So actually using number one eyeball here is a bit that's pretty easy. So you've got your eyeball, your best guess. Sometimes it can be the most annoying thing ever to have your first guess and you look at the target, you've never seen it before. Oh, I think that's 28 yards. Call it 30. And you get down and something in between when your first guess was and pulling the trigger persuades you that you were wrong, but it turns out you were right. That's annoying. But it does happen.
Second guessing.
And then of course, as well as having targets of different shapes and sizes with strange things on them, to distract you and make you think it's wrong. So you might know the height of the original crow, the commercial one, but the people that first shot Crowzilla didn't realise it was huge. So they thought it was a lot closer than it really was, because things that are bigger look closer.
Smaller, look further.
If you had that, so say at 30 yards and the Crowzilla at 45, they probably look the same size. So there are those things, but there are lots of other tricks, ploys that the course setters will make to distract you from the true range, particularly in terms of your eyeball guess. These things we've been talking about, parallax movement, blur's an issue because of varying light conditions, but the parallax movement is, or being able to bracket if you can, are something which they can't really fool you with. So, this drawing is of a standard knockover or flop over rat, the normal size one. Occasionally you're going to find rats out there that look a bit different shape. There's one that's got a particularly humped back to it, which if it was at the same distance as this would appear to be almost 50% bigger, because it is. But then they've also produced a half-size version of that with the humpback to fool you. So here's some examples. If this rat, if there are 1, 2, 3 dots between the middle of the kill and its nose, 3 mil dots, you don't know how far away it is, but if you measure it at 3 mil dots from the hinge all that way, from the hinge, 1, 2, 3, if the hinge or the nose to the centre of the kill are reading 3 mil dots, it's 40 yards away.
Yes.
And here are some other typical targets you will find, but you cannot possibly list all the different targets. Charles Peel here. Yeah. At one point he used to have a printout of a spreadsheet on A3 paper on his shooting mat that had print a quarter the size of that, and it had virtually every target he'd ever seen. Yeah, so he knew that the place in South Wales we used to shoot at frequently called Quarry, they've got a target that is a snake, wobbly snake, and the kill was in the head. Yeah, he knew these for how many mil dots between the tip of the head and the second hump of the Quarry snake.
Yeah. So he could work out how.
He could. Yeah.
How far they are.
So for you, foxes are not normal targets. The rat here is a little bit different. Let's actually right down at the back there, almost in the middle of the backboard. There's a magpie. Is that
a magpie?
Yes. So it's to the right and slightly above the big round blob with holes in it, and to the left of a diamond. I think that is a standard magpie size target. So if you were to measure the top of his head to the centre of the kill, how many dots can you see between the top of his head? So
Two dots. Two dots.
2 dots.
Yeah.
Okay. Now this is with Charles's own thing. Bear in mind, he said that at 45 that would be 2.4, but the difference there could just be the magnification setting. Yeah. So you could generate for yourself, a table like this, knowing that if you could see 5.6 mil dots, 5.5. between the middle of the kill on the top of his head, it would be at 20 yards. I'm guessing at the moment that those were readings that Charles has generated based on his own scope he was using at the time.
Yeah, probably.
No, I'm sure this table that Charles has given us as a learning aid on bracketing was based on his scope, whichever one it might have been his loophole at the time.
What reticle have you got, fella?
Well, he's got half mil dot.
Half mil dot.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that a quick look, I think at the back there on the 45, in the middle of the board, there's a magpie.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's probably a standard magpie.
It looks like it.
It looks like it, doesn't it? According to Charles's chart here, his scope, he was getting 2.4 dots between the middle of the kill and the top of the head. And I think Jason was getting 2 or 2 and a bit, teeny bit. But the difference will just be your scope compared with Charles's.
So what you're doing, Jason, is when you're setting up your scope, you're setting your scope up, not anybody else's scope up.
Yes.
So with me, I shoot I shoot a loophole, so it has half mil dots, just like yours. So then that's why I measure from my scope, and it tells me I need 2.5. So 2.5, that tells me 45 yards, and so on and so on. But you're measuring with your scope at all the ranges from 8 to 45. So I know all mine off by heart. So it's just something that you pick up.
I mean, has it happened that Jason is a brave chap? It's camera. Jason is a very brave chap.
Right.
He's got a .28, which doesn't give him the advantage of being in the 2-2 class. So he's going to be in the open class when he doesn't start shooting with us. At the moment, unless we happen to have a midweek he won't be able to drop this because of his work, family circumstances. But so he's got plenty of time to build up to be able to do that in comps.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing perhaps, well, I don't know. So bank holiday Monday.
Yeah, should be good for me.
Maybe, if we do have some.
Yeah.
And occasionally, even if there isn't anything nationally, they tend to avoid bank holidays. But it's the sort of day we might, as a club, put on a comp. Yeah?
Listen, I've just got to go next somewhere.
Right. So it gives you time to really nail this down. But the reason what you're seeing doesn't agree with that. That isn't a chair gun thing, based on a standard scope. Yeah. That will be Charles's old.
I just need to measure my thing here.
Right.
To just put it on chair gun.
Okay.
I've got chair gun and everything. I've got the device to measure it.
Right.
I just haven't got round to it yet. But I think so.
2, 3, 4 days. So you put the time in and you
practicing.
will shoot better.
Yeah.
Especially time shooting in a place where you need to learn to read the wind.
Yeah, with
Because
the conditions.
there's nothing we're talking about here that is going to help you. I mean, I can give you tips, which you probably know already, because you go out hunting squirrels, about feeling the wind and seeing it blow leaves.
Yes.
Yeah. But how much it is and how much you're going to have to adjust for that
to hold in
is something that comes through practice. Yeah. How far away do you shoot from your squirrel feeders?
Yeah, about 25 yards.
Yeah.
25
Which-
yards.
Incredibly sensible. There's no need for it to be further away for them to come down. So you probably wouldn't choose to put a feeder out at 45 yards.
It would depend. If it was a really good location and there was like a stream or whatever, and not to disturb them, so I would come on the other side, if you see what I mean, then I might be further. Because there's like little spots, because it's a massive permission. There's little pockets where it's like really, you know that's going to be a sweet spot. And there might be like obstacle. You might be able to get around the other side to put your feed in, but then when you're coming shooting, not to disturb everything, you just come the other side, but you'll be a bit further. But that might be an advantage when they can't smell you, see you. But you know, But no, I keep it really close because I think it's more sensible and easy as well.
The closer you can get, the better. Far more likely to produce a clean shot every time.
She's good. But then when I was shooting rabbits, it's all laser range finder.
Yes.
And then you just hold over and.
But again, if there's breeze.
Then you have to adjust to that as well.
I mean, we've had days where you've had to allow to knock a target over, be really, really brave. You're not aiming at the metal bit.
Yes.
You're aiming at the tree next to it.
For it to just travel that
much. Or the
much.
target you've just left. Right, I'm going to shoot this one, but I'm going to have to aim at that one. I mean, we call it shooting off the plate. That's a slight exaggeration, but yes, shooting into mid-air is not uncommon, especially here up on the hill. Where especially if you've got a target, well, that was not so bad, because there's a fair bit of width there to get the wind wrong, especially if the wind's blowing that way. If you had to aim here and it only comes as far as there, you're going to hit metal, and it's actually got quite a long way to travel. We have some targets called the finger of fun, where it's literally like a finger, incredibly narrow, so it increases with a strong breeze the probability of actually getting a down. And being able to judge, sometimes only on the day you might have to get it wrong, not to miss the whole plate, but to get it wrong for a couple.
See where you're.
To see, oh my goodness, I thought I was only going to have to give it, aiming here with the wind that way. I thought I was going to have to aim here. But your first couple of pellets hit right over here.
You have to give it some more.
To aim a mil dot,
like one finger, two finger, maybe three finger.
Tend not to think about it in terms of distance or physical space at the target. But
mil dots.
No, I think right towards the end of yesterday's course, I was shooting with Charles, and there was a target that I hadn't realised was probably absolutely at the full distance, 45 yards. It had a crosswind, and I probably only put my 45 mark at the bottom of the hole, bigger than this.
Yeah.
So I had my 45 here, yeah, 40 towards the top, but I'd only given it half a mil dot of wind. He got it, full mil dot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know whether I'd really even thought it out, because it was quite close to their 0 range. Paper targets out. When I shot to check my gun 0 on that, I was able to tuck myself up against a fence at the edge of it, so that I wasn't going to get upset by the wind. Yeah. But how much wind? And the course weaved round, so every time you change targets, the wind would be in a different direction, different strength. Occasionally it would disappear altogether. Lots of people failing to knock a target over, hitting the plate, but where they thought they'd have to give it half a dot or just outside the edge of the hole, and that's exactly where the pellet went. Yeah. So let's move on to having a look at the, practically we can have a look at some of the targets on the ones that are out there to identify some of the tricks, if you like, ploys that the course setters will use to upset your judgment.
Don't need to bring anything.
That's okay there for now. Yeah, or no, bring it with you, because you might get you to have a look through the gun and see if you can have your first guess, see if you can see whether there's any blur. If you put into practice some of that. We usually do that the next day. I think we'll do it
at some point.
So, things particularly, changes in lighting pattern, changes in terrain, such that this bit here with the fence, if the wind's this way, and the fence is there, and there's a big tree here, but actually there's lots of open ground, because that fence there is only skinny wire. So wind's going to be blowing there. You lying down, you can't feel it or see it, but it's there. It's a narrow view. That's probably the most common. It will make it look, and it varies from person to person, either make
it look further.
That's the view. That's the view. It will make it look further away than it really is. This one, this is our thing, which may or may not be visible at the moment, lying down. But how far away would you guess it was? Now here at our club,
I can see probably about 41, because it's just before the backstroke there.
It's our club, it's our place. Place we went to yesterday, we'd never seen any of it before, and it's very open ground, very few. I mean, sometimes you've got maybe a fence running along beside or close to, parallel with where you're shooting. How often, how far apart do they put fence posts when they're putting it up? They vary, but a lot of the times it's rather similar. You count fence posts. Place we go to in Sussex, just over the border in West Sussex, near Arundel. About half the shoot there is on an old concrete runway.
So you can measure the distance.
Slabs of concrete that are 7 yards square. It produces a bit of brain whirring if you're shooting diagonally across them. What's the square root of 49 times 2? And you can't always be certain that you're seeing all the squares. So there are other things you can add into the mix. But that will not help you when you're going to somewhere for the very first time. Unless some kind of person like me tells you, if you come with us to Ford, these squares of concrete are 7 yards across on the square side. But depth perception can be affected by the narrowness and the colour as well. Here, there's reasonable sort of, light all the way through, but the target's in a darkish patch. Do you want to grab one, unless you don't mind grovelling in the ground, but wouldn't suggest it, grab one of the spare shooting mats in there, lying down jobbies. If they are club ones or ones that people have abandoned here. So if your guess was right at 41, you should find, is it going to be crystal clear or a teeny bit blurry or loads blurry?
See,
remember what the blur looked like?
A little bit blurry on the outside.
Okay. Now, if the change or the darkness of the area is going to affect it, it's likely that it might appear a little bit blurrier than you have checked.
Yeah, a little bit blurry on the outside.
Right. Which is good. So that helps to reinforce your guess based on your knowledge here. In case we've moved it, because we do move this one from time to time, we're more likely not to make subtle movements, but move the thing completely. Yeah? And can you also now see the parallax error movement? The crosshairs should appear to move in the opposite direction to the way your head's going. Unless the change
about 1 mil dot. About 1 mil dot.
Okay. Right.
Yeah, 3/4, almost 3/4 mil dot.
Right. So they're going to use changes in target size, things that are not standard. It's rare, but it does happen that you get a change in the size of the hole. Remember the one up there we looked at, Graham's favourite barn door? People will get a bit sort of, ooh, what's that all about? When they see a kill that isn't round. You can have any shaped hole you want. The actual measurement is dependent upon the size of a round rod that will go through it. So I used to do triangular ones, hexagonal ones, and it's amazing how it played with the minds of people. Oh, I can't work out how big that is. When you look at that squarish hole, physically it looks big.
You can't tell really.
If they had their head set right, they should know that if they wanted to bracket the size of the hole, the measurement on a square hole is going to be the width or height. If it was rectangular, you would measure the smallest of the two sides because that's the diameter that the largest round thing would go through. So tunnels. What else have we got? Again, here in our woods, we rely a great deal on narrowing the view. So here we've got a shot that for ages was a neighbour. Now you've lost the ability to know how far away the end of the range is. It's not the little red rabbit, it's the thing on a horizontal trunk of wood up the tree there.
Let's have a look.
At your first glance, what does your brain tell you?
I'm trying to cheat.
No, it's okay.
Sorry.
No, I'm not trying to catch you out.
I'm trying. I would say about 35 yards.
Okay. So, get your scope, have a look at the sharpness and the parallax movement. So
is that laying down as well?
Yeah. I'm hoping you can still see it.
That's pretty sharp.
And if you move your are you getting any parallax movement? And if so, in which direction? Probably not going to be a lot of movement. steady as the bench, so it becomes a bit more difficult.
Not a lot.
Not a lot, but if there's a teeny bit, which way is the crosshair appearing to move?
I'm moving right, and it's moving left.
Okay.
A tiny bit.
Tiny bit left. I don't know, maybe we move this one.
Maybe it's not moving. A minute. Yeah, tiny bit.
Tiny bit.
Yes.
In the opposite direction to your head
yes.
movement. Well, that tells you that, in theory, it is just over 30.
Yeah.
It can't be closer or much closer because the movement
there's a little movement
in
there.
the same direction.
Yeah, about 32 probably.
It is interesting because we can test it later. We'll have a rather than laying down each one. Yeah. We'll come back and shoot some of them. See if you can knock them over.
Maybe.
But for a long time, this one used to fool people into thinking it is further away than it actually is. Yeah. I think we did have it set as a supported maneuver, which would help you know the rules depending upon the kill size. And again, I'm going to share with you a complete list of an easy read guide as to how far away different kill sizes can be depending upon the shooting position. So what, I mean, in any case, do you know how many targets we have on 100 target books?
No.
That's right. It's not a trick question. 30. Okay. Yeah, it's always 30. It doesn't change. And all of the shooting positions bar all the shooting positions bar all the shooting positions bar 4 will have a peg in the ground. Okay. Here these are metal pegs with plastic around them to avoid it scratching your gun. Yeah, a bit more so. Yeah, and when you're taking the shot, some bit of you or the gun has to touch that peg. Okay. Yeah. When you're taking the shot, your trigger finger has to be not forward of that. I think they use the word has to be behind it.
Okay. So your trigger finger needs to be behind.
Yeah. Okay. So you will find a peg which should be at least 400 millimeters high. Not every place we go to do they have the right height pegs, but for most of the time that's okay. The exception to that is where you've got a severely elevated shot where the pegs have to be taller. Yeah. Then there are supported positionals, standing only. It tells you the peg number and what the position is, so you can't kneel on this one, you can't lie down. Usually there should be the number attached to the object that is the support. Sometimes it might be just identified by paint.
Yeah.
Maybe let's explain.
Oh my god.
So this is, I'll tell you now, this is the support.
Okay.
Yeah. Your trigger finger again has to be behind the line. The line is usually where here there's no peg in the ground. So some bit of you or the gun has to be touching this. That. Yeah. Okay. You can see the target. You see it down at the moment. Yeah. Oh no, it's up.
Yes.
Looks a bit squished. But for that one, again, it's for you to determine the best position for you. Yeah. I mean, I can give you advice and tips on the correct positions, especially standing and kneeling. The whole thing all the way through though, and this applies to prone shots as well, is being steady, and being steady usually means being relaxed and comfortable. If you're not comfortable, your muscles are going to be twitching. Yeah, you're not going to be able to hold the gun as steady as you can. Yeah. With standing and kneeling shots, generally, it's impossible to be completely still, as it would be with a prone shot.
Yes.
Even a prone shot. And it's up to you. A prone shot allows you to put one bit of your gun can be touching the ground, which is the back end of the stock. Yeah, the underneath of the butt.
Yeah, that bit.
No other bit of the rifle can be in direct contact with the ground or anything on it.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's going to be your hand that will support the front of the gun. With this, again, it doesn't. It can be your gun that touches this, or your hand, or both. Yeah, but as long as some bit of you's doing it. For standing shots, you will probably. You can see where the target is.
Yeah.
Get yourself in position. What looks and feels comfy. I'm ignoring the sort of the guesstimate on range at the moment, just to have a look at what you think to you looks stable.
I think that looks stable to me.
Okay.
Like that.
Some of which, for the look of it, the way this has grown up, yeah.
Little red one there.
Now it's right up at the back.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. That one might be seeable, although even very close to the post here, remembering that some bit of you or the gun has to touch that.
Yeah.
If you're lying down, we would have to clear it. You'd probably be able to see it kneeling.
Yeah.
But that would be a challenging kneeling shot.
Yeah. I'll be here all day.
Yeah. And then here we've got more storage. Most of our targets, our HFT targets, are in there. There's a powered motorised lawnmower thing which we also use to drag the trailer up into the field when we're taking loads of gear up there. Whole load of different target stands there that we can use. And then in here, sort of loosely called the bench rest area, and there's another one of these tables hiding somewhere at the moment. We can have two of these. Yeah. We use this for bench rest, 25 metres. Yeah, from here, from the front of this. So, but we also do use it. This little near target to us is pistol. Yeah. The further one that's out there through the holes down the back is an HFT target to be shot prone only from that peg. Yeah. Here we've got another HFT target, which again, even kneeling today, no, you wouldn't be able to see that really. Yeah. Little paddle target up there.
Jesus. Someone thought about that.
This area we use for bench rest, for plinking if the other range was full and no one's using it for pistol, but we can also use this for pistol, what's called IPAS, yeah, and I can't remember what it stands for now, but it's metal plate targets put on these stands 5 at a time, where it's timed, gun in the holster, big cowboy style, out, bang, 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 and it's timed from when you take your first shot to the last shot, and it's timed automatically. We've got a super duper device that can do that, but you can also get an app on phones now because they're so smart.
Right, you can just...
and it hears
the sound,
the fire of the pellet hitting the target or the gun going off. And will then, that's your starting point, to the finishing. And I mean, the guys who are really good at it, at sort of national level, are drawing the gun, hitting all 5 targets and finishing, hitting the last target in a couple of seconds. But finely tuned guns.
Yeah, they are.
You can see the bench rest targets, we've got these holders here for them. There are that many bullseyes on a bench rest target. Some of those for practice, but the middle 5x5, 25 bullseyes, 1 shot at each, and the objective being to hit the dot in them, to make the dot in the middle of the bullseye disappear.
Take it all out completely.
Yes, yeah. And I think which is then classed as a 10x. So the perfect score would be 250, 25 times 10, and 25 X's.
X's, yeah.
That's a rarity.
So the X is like
the X is the dot.
Yeah, the perfect
it's
dot.
inward gauging. So if the little 0, the 10 ring, is probably what, 4 millimeters, maybe 3 millimeters across. If you hit it, even if you just touch it, that's 10. But you don't get the extra
so you
point
take that
unless you make the dot in the middle disappear. Here it's not done by many or seriously, but no reason why someone couldn't. Normally with that you'd actually have flag wind indicators out down the range.
Just to make sure.
So you're looking to try and find
the right moment.
So the moment you take your shot is the same as the last one. Looking for consistency of wind. So here there are stores for that sort of stuff. We'll come back up here anyway, and then we go up through the wood there for other woodland targets. Again, this will vary depending upon the actual support provided. Further up in the wood here, we haven't got a tree, it's just a scaffold pole hammered very securely into the ground. So you've got to be able to get a grip on that and be able to rest the rifle steadily. Generally speaking, if you set your upper body position, shoulder, hand, that looks okay, but with your feet sort of lined up almost with the target, that allows me to move you that way. Because there's nothing to stop that. Most of us tend to adopt, and again this will be for you to try out, a position where you were quite upright there and with your feet almost in line with the target. That means that to get your shoulders in the right position, you're twisted a little bit compared with where your feet were, and it does allow that wobble. There isn't quite the stability in the lower legs helping you. So most of us stand not square but maybe close to it, further away. This thing is supposed to be steady enough, even for tall heavy people. I'm a short heavy person. But I'll have sized it up, made a decision on the range, have the rifle, and I'll lean. I don't have to have my legs locked, but all of the strength is now this arm. I'm not putting a lot of tension or pressure on it. I haven't got to lock my elbow, but it allows me then to have stability left and right. Sometimes, depending upon the object, I'll have my hand around it with the gun rested on it or in there. A glove will help you for all shots. Definitely worth investing in. Your beanie hat, okay. Something with a decent peak on it is also a good idea. This is about keeping the sun out of your eyes and out of the back of the scope when you're taking the shots. Some people use the little soft bit out the back, which can help with getting your head in the middle and at a set distance. Some people like them, some can't get on with them. I don't. We will usually allow, we do allow in a competition, if the sun is incredibly low and coming from there, and I actually can't see anything through my scope, even with my hat turned at a silly angle, it's okay to ask a shooting colleague to stand. They mustn't cross the line, although putting their hand over, maybe with the scorecard,
just to block the sun a little bit.
And you do the same for them. Not always necessary, depending if you're left-hander and the sun's over there, he's probably fine, because he's in the other direction. But no, try yourself, stand with a little bit further away, or get yourself in position and move your feet back. And lean on it. If the thing you're actually using as support feels like it's about to give way, lighter, therefore can go faster.
And
so you're
straighter
talking
line
about,
as well.
Well, it's not necessarily straighter. You know, 2.2s in theory are ballistically more efficient, so they shouldn't take as much wind.
Yeah.
But that's a myth because they take so long to get here.
So take all the wind.
Yes. But yes. So no, 2.2 is a popular one for people who really love a big challenge.
Okay.
Yeah? And you can shoot well with it. We've occasionally had people who shoot 2.2 pre-charge guns. Yeah? There's not many people mad enough to shoot a 2.2 Springer. Yeah? But 2.2 pre-charge, getting near the top scores of the people in open class. Yeah? So anyway, these are some of these resetting things. At risk of getting white goo on me. There you go. Right, 45.
Yeah.
And if you remember that, again, this is where actually you begin to get to learn how far away targets are in your own wood. So that's 45 from the bench to here. That target you looked at from peg 1 is here.
So about 44, 43 probably.
43, and then the peg itself is probably a couple of yards this way. So it's nearer to 40 than 45.
Yes.
That was an intermission to get the blood moving again.
Yeah. My watch was talking to me. Get up.
Yes. So remember to take this out again.
Yes.
And it's at this point, once you've made certain that there's no one else stuck in, okay, so I can blow twice on the whistle and make it distinctive. So it isn't that's really clear to everybody that it's two separate distinct ones, but they're close enough together that it wasn't two separate people blowing the whistle once. The last competition I was at,
Is it?
Yeah. One of their guys kept on muddling up 2s and 1s. And one of them was deaf, so he couldn't hear that the other one had blown it. Okay, so if while on the HFT call it's thought to be 40 call for marshal, seek assistance. During a competition, only marshals can cross the firing line. And usually during the safety briefing, the marshals will be pointed out or named, but they'll be wearing fluorescent high-vis jackets, usually yellow. Occasionally get a chief marshal wants to wear an orange one. Yep. Please remember that the firing lines, pellet trajectory of some of the HFT targets cross the plink. Here, this is a here thing. So some of our targets on the HFT course out there may go across. If they miss, we used to occasionally have a target designed to be shot from there that was underneath this tube. Yeah. So there can be targets that cross. Yeah. So here, when we're having a competition, it doesn't stop people using this. But it will mean that if there's a whistle, everybody stops. Yeah. There are occasionally clubs where the layout of the course means that they may be able to stop one part of it separate from another. I mean, if we're shooting in the field here and here, we used to separate them in terms of stoppages, so that somebody, a marshal, having to go up and repair a target well up near the reservoir, why should the stoppage for that mean people here stopped? But actually recently it's become more confusion and pain, so we tend to say the whole club stops at once. Never walk down the plink without ensuring that the shooters on the HFT course have stopped. Similarly, don't cross the HFT circuit. Yeah. So if you might know there's someone here, yeah, and you want to do a bit of gardening up there. Yeah. If you need to do that, make certain they've stopped here. Yeah. Plinking range. When working on the plinking range, ensure that no shooting sign is inserted into the 10-yard range marker. It's actually not 10 yards, that whole post in the ground there is 8, or just under. If anyone needs to go forward of the bench, all guns must be unloaded and made safe first. And here you go, targets are painted using a white non-drying paint and not with spray cans. Yeah. For our HFT targets, we do use a paint, not this stuff. Yeah. Usually, most commonly, I think the clubs tried all sorts of paints, but the stuff they use for making lines on the ground, football pitch type thing, but yellow and black. We use that on the competition targets. Don't walk down the plinking range unless going to put on ceasefire. To avoid people firing up toward the road, it's only just behind here. At the top of that bank there's a fence, and then you've got the A27. So we don't put any target, even if you wanted to practice an elevated shot. Don't think, oh, it's okay if I lie down here and I put a target on that branch of that tree over there. No, nothing that raises the target above the height of the road. And to be honest, there are other places here you can practice elevated shots. I'll show you one later. It's almost 45 degrees, where it goes nowhere near that. So don't string pole lines. Anything that might be mistaken to be a target above the height of the fixed metal target. Today it's going to need a bit of housekeeping gardening on, but this one,
Let's target up there, isn't it?
yes. Although there's a big post here, there's no sign around it, just the number 12, so it isn't what's called an any position target, which the most stable position of course is prone, but it might be a bit of a neck breaker job. You could choose yourself to take it kneeling or standing, but it's quite a small hole you're trying to thread your 2-0 pellet through. 15 millimeters. And there's a crosswind.
That's why, The string is moving.
And maybe not as much as it would do if I picked it off, because at the moment some of that string is catching in the tops of the weeds. So you're going to have to weigh in which way?
That way.
No, which way are you going to have to weigh in? The indoor range.
I joined the indoor range. But I couldn't do, like I said, I couldn't do the HFT. Because of weekends. But I went there for.
The Horse and Rifle and Pistol Club as a indoor small ball range has been going for a very long time.
Very long time.
The HFT side of it is relatively
new.
And came about as a result of a bit of a personality clash. Commercially available, and they were all squirrels, rats, pigeons, crows, magpies. That was it. A quick look around the shelves here and see there's a bit more now.
Dragon deer.
Yes, the deer.
Fancy bass.
Yes.
There's an alien there, I saw it.
There's an alien. There's
cockatoo.
Just behind the VW camper van there. There's a target partly on its side. This had a special purpose after a while. A lot of people will say, oh God, I can't hit a barn door.
There's a barn door.
Now, ironically, the guy who said he's coming down this morning, he's always testing new gear. And he's the one who tends to shoot really, really well or really badly. But for a long time we had this down here as a supported stander. He couldn't hit it. Even though it's quite generous kill.
It is, isn't it? It's quite big.
Now I don't know whether that is 35mm or might be 30. But of course it's measured based on a circle. But this one's got corners, so it's in a way it's bigger.
Extra space.
Yeah. That's,
Easy to get a
the barn
2-2
door.
pellet down there, yeah. Yeah,
That's the barn door that people couldn't hit. And I think the VW camper bus, when we first used this, we actually had photographs of the guy who's coming down today in the driver's seat and one of the ladies in the back.
Okay, yeah. Cheeky one.
That's obviously one we've made.
Yeah.
And I think, like, I can't see how one it might be out on the range.
Spider-Man. I like that Spider-Man. Yeah.
So that one is cut out of a solid sheet.
Ah.
Some of them are actually made up of welded rod.
Oh, yeah. I see.
So although there's a reasonably large kill with the minimum that's allowed of 10 millimeters around it, but outside of that there's an awful lot of air for you to miss. And the way they work is mostly the same. There are variations. This is no, that isn't traditional. There's one. That's sort of the original sort of knockover and flop over design that has a single trailing arm going back to a lever. So when it goes over centre, it's locked. Go through the hole. And this one has actually now been shot through. Been hit so often in a very small space. Right, pinpoint. And hundreds of pellets have gone through there. That needs to be sorted, really. But there's that design, which generally speaking, if they're maintained, kept oiled, not too tight, not too loose,
they
don't
fine.
go wrong. There's a newer design, and I forget the name of the manufacturer, where it's no, not that one. That's a flop over. This one, slightly different, in that you've actually got the ability to adjust the height of what we call the paddle. Those have a tendency to be need to be set up a bit more precisely. The height of this bit, which is what stops it going further forward and produces the over centre lock. So they're known to be a little bit unforgiving if you haven't got it set up right.
Properly.
Really good.
Nice.
So, how on earth do we know how far away this target is? First of all, what would you think would be the first method you're going to use to figure out how far away that is?
My eyes, obviously.
Number one, eyeball. I look at it, a guess. And sometimes it's really accurate. Sometimes it isn't. So there's a variety of other methods, given you're not allowed the laser. To check or to improve on the accuracy. Which with all guns, whether it's 177 or 22, knowing the accurate range is important. It's more important if you're using 22. I know you're in the middle to any caliber. But with the sort of rather loopy trajectory of a 22, not so bad on stuff that's closer than 25 yards, 30 yards. But when you get beyond 35, 40, 45, with a 22, you really need to know, is it 40 or is it 41 or 42?
So 1-2 meters does actually make a difference.
With that
loop,
with that relatively slow
Side
trajectory,
drop.
which has got a greater top to bottom variation in how high it will be relative to your aim point. We can't do what they do in field target, which is to use the scope itself. So what other methods are open to us? It's definitely going to be, it would be prone only. Because you're only going to see the target once you've lain down underneath that log. And this is one of the ones where I have to personally go a little bit lower than feels totally natural for me. Not loads, but a bit lower, to avoid clipping. I think Paul, shooting with his 2.2, he had to go really low, because I think at that distance where that tree is, fallen tree is, his pellet would be about a dot above the crosshair. So wherever the target was, if you look at that and think, oh, it's 30 yards, so I can put the crosshair in the middle. But I know at that range the pellet is going to be
I'm not happy. It might be a bit close, so I'll go a bit lower. This was one he could shoot with his 2-2, which is like a monster. Yeah, but he had to go a bit lower as opposed to couldn't shoot it at all.
Free target, isn't it?
Well, we've got, these are pistol targets. There's a beer mug, a diamond, but there's one.
There's a crow there, and then there's one. The crowsy line right in the woods there. Huh?
Ah, right. I think that must be the next. But again, there's a good example. When you come up to a target, it's possible. Yeah, you only saw the one on the left.
Yeah.
So make certain, give it a good old tug. Ah, look now, I can see the string going back round to the right. And even moving the target a bit. Otherwise, it's not impossible that you've seen that one over on the
thinking
left
it's that one.
You can see the string going towards it.
Yeah.
Take the shot, which might be difficult.
Hit it.
Knock it over.
0.
Well,
that'd be a bad day,
the target was yours, was in more clear space.
Yes.
But think of how far away is that? Is it one of those little tiny crows, or is it huge crows?
Look like a normal size crow.
Probably.
At that side, that'll be about, I think we're about 35 yards, I reckon.
They're on the plink and they're only fire a couple. Let's be brave. I'm not going to stop them, but we're way out of their way. Let's go and have a look at it. Watch out for potholes and badgers. There's some of our badger holes.
Yeah. Okay.
That's a bit. Not the last one, is it?
Jesus. It's a tiny crow. A tiny one.
And if you look at the pattern, a lot of people have shot it. Yeah.
High.
Actually, if you look from the front, the ones that have missed it. The ones that have missed it, where have they predominantly gone?
High or on the right?
High we've got a few on the right.
Yeah.
But apart from one, they're all high. What about those who actually went through the hole?
They hit higher as well, middle and high,
So they've all thought it was further than it was.
Because it was
a
smaller.
little target.
Yeah.
So it's smaller, but it looked a bit further away. Now, if you knew that the hinge, which will be the same size as on all the targets, if you could see it and you could bracket that with your mil dots, there's another answer.
Definitely need to get checklists.
Now I think there's another target over there, a lion. So roughly how far is it? How good are your steps at measuring yards? Not going to be easy to walk in a dead straight line. See if you can find your way back to the target, to the firing point, stepping. 1, 2.
33?
Yeah, 33, 34.
Yeah.
And they've all looked at it. They might even have thought it was that big crow. At 40 yards at least, which is why pretty much everybody has shot high. Even those who have knocked it over. Yeah.
Crazy. Never thought about things like that.
And for a long time, target setters, course setters, are hoping that it's not something some people have seen before.
Pick up, yeah.
This one, supported standing only, so you can't choose to take this kneeling. There's this support, and I think it is the one you could see from the other side. Again, we can see the string now. And if you're not 100% certain, it's even worse getting your scope up. If you can't see the string clearly from this end, or part way there, look through the target at the scope and do this gently.
It's easier to see.
To see that, yes, this string is attached
for
to
that target.
Rules on that one: supported stander. What's the maximum it can be? The kneelers could go out to 40.
45.
The maximum the supported kneeler can be is 40. So the maximum the stander, which is a little bit less steady,
be 35.
And it's almost exactly the same distance that one was. But probably looks a bit closer. It's a bigger
target.
But that very narrow view down there takes away your eye from. I mean, some people will do things like, if you can see this one, it's very difficult. We've got the near bunch of trees by the ladder. Then there's another bunch of trees
on the side,
with a horizontal beam across them. You might think, well, these trees are maybe 14 yards, so that puts the next lot a bit less. The next lot maybe at 25, because that looks a bit like the bench rest area. So, but then you run out of references. How much further is it beyond that? It's a bit of dead ground.
You can't.
No further references.
So you definitely have to use your trick.
Not close to the 25. You can see that. If it was close to the 25, as I move, the target wouldn't move so much across the hole. So you're probably thinking, well, it's at least 30. The rules allow it to go back to 35. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to put my 35 sort of inside maybe the lower half of the kiln. So which for me, you're 30, 0. You'd be thinking I'd probably put that maybe just above the middle.
A little bit high.
Just in case it's 35. If I put my 30 at the top, would the 35 be in the bottom?
I see. Then if it's in between 30 and 35, you're still hitting it.
If what would have been your guess on the distance to that horizontal loggy bit between the trees? And I don't
so
want
20 something.
I was thinking maybe a little bit further, but I'm sometimes crap at this game. No, I think you might be right. Because I've got a feeling it's further. If that was 25, then the target to be 35 would only be 10 yards behind it. But it looks further than that.
So many things to take into consideration.
But this is the way the course setter's mind begins to work. Relatively straightforward.
That's a pro now as well, that one, isn't it?
Is it a crow?
It's a big Grozilla.
Where quite often that you look at it and think, oh my goodness, that's a very small hole in it. Unless of course it's a big hole in an even bigger bit of yellow. If you get one of those Crozillas with a 25mm hole in it, it looks tiny. Not the crow. The hole looks ridiculously small.
Because the target is bigger.
Because the target is so big. So if it's the big crow, given the other little bird,
so definitely 45, that one.
But again, that's the sort of thing I would check with my parallax and blur. You may get a little more blur because it's dark. So don't be certain that, oh my goodness, that is so blurry, so it must be 45. Look at your parallax movement as well.
Checklist.
If you can bracket it. I really need to add that into my I was going to start bracketing kill sizes, but I'm not good enough at judging the size of the kill. I'm not allowed to run out there
how close is
with this to check. And then I think here,
I see it.
Got, I think this is, not to be confused with the red one. I think this is is it
rabbit?
A little one of the 15 mil?
Yeah, it's a small kill.
Yeah. So minimum is 13 yards. It's certainly not
13, 25, isn't
25.
it? Yeah. Yes, yeah, definitely 25,
right.
23, 25 probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think you're right. So again, for me, I know that's half a mil dot in the centre, or even just below it. Here, although the wind down on the Plink zero range was coming this way, what's it doing here?
Going that way.
It comes down off that field.
Yeah. Nice slope.
Yeah. Because the wood is warming up.
Yeah.
Meaning there's rising air, and it pulls it off that.
Yeah.
So there's some point in the wood where you'll go from knowing that it's right to left to actually having it switch.
Yeah, left to
and
right.
Sometimes in the middle it will keep changing.
Yeah, come from behind. And
probably, I mean, there's quite a bit of shelter in here, but you can see the near leaves moving.
yes.
I can't see that bit of nettle there, which I'm tweaking. I can't see that moving, but the target's high enough to be getting a bit of breeze.
Yes.
Left to right. How much I would give it? Ooh.
Quarter, really?
I dare go outside. Remember, it's only 15 mil.
Yeah.
The kill itself
might just go just over the edge, just on the edge there.
Go
here,
that's exactly where it hits.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm not that brave. And
go on the edge and it hit the edge. Yeah.